What's
happening?
Back to Dim Summary.
Oh, man. This is my favorite part of the week now.
I know. There's less people today. It's just us two.
Just the two of us.
Eric just threw us on. He was like, guys, just
like,
go up and talk.
Yeah. So we're going to just talk. We're just going to hang out. It's Dim Summary time. Yeah.
Yes.
What a great day.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Pastor Brett mentioned Professor Harold Honer.
Yes, he did.
DTS. By the way, if you didn't know that, all three of us went to Dallas Theological Seminary.
We
and
did.
This is not to market that school.
It's a great school. Everybody should go there.
But if you're thinking about theological education, that's where you should go.
It's the best one. It's probably the best seminary out there. I think there are no other seminaries in the world besides that. No, it's a great one.
Did you ever contract for a grade?
I did.
So you understood what he was talking about?
Yeah, I did. My first class, I had multiple classes, but the first one I had an assignment due in was an Old Testament history class.
Yeah, you never want to do well in that class.
And I was so nervous. And I wanted to contract for an A, but I was so nervous to write my paper that I thought I would just totally blow it, that I just skipped the first paper and I contracted for a B. And I went to my professor and we had lunch, and he's a great guy. And he's like, he told me, he's like, how do you think I feel? He's like, I've only been teaching here for 3 years. I'm nervous. He's like, I'm just as nervous as you are, And that made all my nerves go away. And
dude, that's always how it works, right? So with the contract grading, you usually wait till after your first paper to determine, well, should I continue working hard or not?
How far do you
First
go?
paper's like a C+. You're like, well,
guess I'm getting a C.
go contract for a C.
I never contracted for a C. I did get one C, but I never contracted for a C.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite classes I ever took, Intro to World Missions, was.
You got the worst grade on?
I got a bad grade on it, but I loved the class and I learned so much out of it.
Yeah.
I'm just not I guess I wasn't a good test taker with that.
Did you have like a favorite professor?
Yes.
Who was he, and what did you like about him?
So my favorite professor in seminary was Dr. Kreider. He was a theology professor. He taught all different forms of theology, but he just had a very unique style of teaching.
Which is?
He could be fairly dramatic. He would say things and just let the silence be silent, and then he would kind of come nothing controversial, but just differing opinions about things that I always thought was really, really intriguing. He would kind of push the students a little bit to kind of think outside of the box, and then he loved music. Like, I love that he loved music, and he would look at contemporary music, like pop music, and look for theology in the songs. And he was a huge music fan, and
he was a huge U2 fan.
U2 fan, yeah.
I don't know if Dr. Kreider ever remembers me. I sat in the front row all the time, but
I'm sure.
Dude, I was a little scared to talk in his class.
He comes to Hong Kong pretty often,
Is he?
before COVID, and so we would hang out and have dinner and stuff together. But he's an awesome professor. Who's your favorite?
So, there's a guy named Dr. Hanna who actually led an Island ECC Israel trip, I think, right?
Yeah.
He brought
did.
a trip to Israel.
Yeah, years ago.
But in one of my first classes, he said, just 3 years ago, I sincerely doubted my faith. And I was like, what? Like, how can a professor teaching future pastors say that?
Right.
And it was just so disarming. I think one thing I learned about seminary was, the books and like the material that I learned was great, but it was the people that we learned under.
Oh, totally. That was the thing about my friends always told me, like, you don't take a class, you take a professor. Like, you go for the professor. And they were just a great professor. And Pastor Brett shared kind of why they were so great, because they were very honest and real thinking, types of folks. So, but yeah, I mean, so speaking.
We had to give that a shout out just because we're alumni, but we don't want to bore you to death. Hey guys, definitely interact with the chat.
Yeah.
If you have any questions about the sermon or you want us to talk about anything, just type it in the chat. Start to interact with us a little bit more. We want to do this for you. But of course, as is customary, we have to somehow figure out what we're eating.
Okay. So we have some kind of bow.
I've actually never seen a bow like this.
Yeah, it's like pink.
So maybe
colored.
if you're in the chat and you know exactly.
You said these are Tao bows?
They're the Tao bows.
They're beautiful.
Extreme value.
This is amazing. I've never seen.
It looks like
it's
a raisin bun.
Swirly raisin bun looking thing.
Yep.
I might have to cut this up and
So if you know them,
yeah, shout it out in the chat, please. Oh wait. All right.
so Pam asked Tim and Kevin, what did you both contract for in most of your classes?
Oh.
You know me, I contracted for an A, and
I
it
only,
would have been a sin for me not to go for the A because I didn't have any kids.
yeah.
I was there full time. I didn't really have another job to do, but
I went for mostly A's.
yeah.
I did. I really did.
Okay, yeah.
But I was married and working 2 jobs at the time, so I did get B's, but I would shoot for A's, you know. But yeah. But yeah. So, but speaking of this kind of idea of talents and stewardship.
Volume's on.
Yeah, my volume is on. Let me turn that off. Talents and stewardship, and that was just a great message,
Yes.
great passage of scripture that Brett was able to kind of leapfrog off of and talk through the idea of using our talents and stewardship.
Yep.
What would you think, Kevin, for you? Like, what grace, what measure of grace have you been given? What's been bestowed upon you?
He just gave me a real kind heart. God gave me a lot of,
heart.
you know, he just made me a very nice person.
You're a sweet guy.
Yeah.
You're just a
I'm a
sweet-
man of little talent, but a big heart is what
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of people would say that I have.
That's exactly right.
So,
You're just an adorable, sweet guy.
no, I actually, in terms of skill sets and talents and stuff, like, I do actually think that God gave me this willingness to try different things, to
Oh, yeah.
be kind of mediocre at a lot of things, which is actually, I think, a good thing.
A jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades,
Master of none.
master of
Some.
exactly none. Some.
Exactly none. Hey, I hear you rip on the guitar, Kevin.
No, you got to tell them that story.
Okay, all right, check this out. So, for those of you who don't know, I was a youth guy here at Island ECC back in 2004. I was doing our youth ministry, directing our youth ministry. Kevin was a freshman, a grade 9, year 10 kid when I first moved here. And we needed people on our worship team. We needed some musicians. And so I found this message that I sent Kevin on September 28th, 2004. It says, Kevin, I hear you rip on the guitar. Would you like to get together sometime to play?
Do people still say that?
Rip,
That you
rip.
rip on the guitar?
I was trying to be cool. Like I'm like 25 years old talking to a teenager. Like, don't the kids say rip?
Yeah.
Anyway, we could use another musician for our youth group meetings. Let me know. Tim
That was
Latour.
the start of, that was
was it.
actually our first interaction.
Yeah. And then you came and played the guitar, and you actually were very good. And
I was actually not very good. So
Well, you were
this
good.
is
Good
this
enough.
is the idea of jack of all trades. So I learned guitar the year before. I learned maybe 4 chords,
right.
but I knew that I wanted to rip the guitar. So I was practicing scales as well.
Yeah.
But when you emailed that was the first time nobody at school invited me to be a part of their band.
Right.
The music directors didn't invite me to.
I believed in you, Kevin, because you're a nice
But
guy.
you were the
I
first
believed
one.
in you. I believed in you.
So sometimes there's a power in just someone believing in you.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened to me. A friend of mine invited me to play guitar at youth group because he and I went to school together and we would play music together. And he said, hey, I'm the youth pastor. Would you like to come volunteer playing music? And that was kind of God saying, be a steward of your talent and, go do what you can do. And that literally was what got me
That's
to where
right.
we are today. So,
Which, by the way, it reminds me, when the church first moved into this building, it was my senior year, right? Like 2000.
Yep, 2008.
I was approached by someone on staff, and they said, "Would you want to teach classical guitar to little kids?" And so my buddy and I were the first ones. We taught a class on guitar, which I think is full circle because
Right.
I still wasn't all that great at guitar, and my buddy taught dance. But that was the way that he was a dancer. He was a hip hop dancer, and so we just taught 10-year-olds how
Yeah.
to dance. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You were in a boy band, weren't you?
It was super. Yeah, I was in a boy band. Our boy band name was Boys R Us.
Yeah. That was such a great.
We took ourselves very seriously,
Yes, you did.
and we did covers of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. But it was a very unique class in that. Sorry, back to the class that we taught. We taught the first half of the class would be on how to play guitar. Then everyone would put their guitars down and they'd learn how to dance. So it was.
That's got to be the greatest lesson ever.
So if you have any skills,
Yeah.
we can literally put classes together
Exactly.
on how you might be
We've had
more-
acting classes here.
Have we really?
Oh yeah. We've had all different kinds of things. That's what I think is so beautiful about the church is that there's so many talents, there's so many gifts that people have that can be used in multiple ways, and it's just about kind of being a good steward of that and using it to the glory of God and serving Him in any possible way you can think of.
Yeah.
We do have different volunteer roles here that are kind of set. But those can, evolve and change and grow. And I mean, you think there was a time where we never had cameras at Island ECC, and now we have camera people. So there's a lot of stuff that changes.
Yeah, so you may want to type in if you interact with us. If you have like a skill set or a talent, and you're like, well, I know how to pour tea or something, and you're like, I don't know how that fits with the church. Go ahead and we can talk about it. My dad is calling me like
Dad's
crazy.
calling. Speaking of someone who's a good steward
Yes.
of their talents,
My dad.
Kev's dad.
Yeah,
Brian Kusanoki, who just called him live here on Dim Summary.
yeah.
He's serving with our kids club right now, right?
is.
Now, when I first met Brian Kusanoki, he was serving with our youth ministry, and I walked in and he said, "Hey, you're the new youth guy, right?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, you teach this class now."
Yeah, that was true.
Yeah. But he's been serving at this church for as long as I can never remember, longer than I got it.
That's right.
Forever.
So actually, this past year, a month ago or 2 months ago, kids ministry was like, "We really need help," and I'm like, "My dad is retired and he misses having kids, so you should just hit him up." And so now he's been serving every single week, and it's been awesome. We got a question from Jackie. How can we balance stewarding our gifts and talents and our schedule? Sometimes I've fallen into committing too much and then I burn out.
I'm chewing. Keep going.
Think about it.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It is a great question. I think when we get into the point of committing too much, obviously that's not healthy, right? I mean, we need to think about our own kind of
And it means you're really talented
right.
and you're being asked to serve.
And you say yes too much. Maybe you're like me. I'm very much a people pleaser at times, and I want to help as much as possible. And I say yes to a lot of things, and I enjoy doing those things. But sometimes it gets to be a bit of a burden, and it's too much if I overcommit myself, and that's really not great to do. It's not healthy because you don't want to be running on an empty tank all the time with every commitment that you have. And as Pastor Brett was saying, when he became a father and he has a job and he's in school and he's serving and doing all these things, some things do have to kind of be pulled back here and there. And I think it's good to just kind of analyze what can you do and what can you not do. And if you're committed to something that you really enjoy, and you don't want to give it up, maybe you can find a new way or a new schedule on how to do it, something to that effect.
Yeah. I would say your schedule is also an aspect of how God has graced you.
Right.
So you factor in your schedule, your time, your talents. It's all about stewardship, really, because you look at your calendar right now, and we recognize that the church is not just the four walls of the church and serving on Sundays, but the church is the body of Christ. How can you use your gifts and steward your time to help people? Maybe you need to prioritize stewarding your time with your family because that's what God has entrusted to you. So you make that a priority, or you steward your relationships with your friends that are in your workplace because that is what God has placed in your. It's not. I guess what I'm saying is it's not all just about talents or skill sets. It's about your relationships and the position that you've been placed in, kind of like the list that Pastor Brett was talking about. And then you can look at your calendar as a whole and start to realize there's no distinction between, there shouldn't be that much of a distinction between church activity and living life activity. It's all about stewarding the blessings that God has given you. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, that was the thing when we first got into ministry back in the day. We did everything. I mean, we did everything we could possibly think of, and pretty much every night of the week was spent at the church after Cindy and I got married, and it was great. But then we realized, oh, we're not having date nights, and so maybe we should say no to one thing and spend time together as a married couple. But
Another example, I was talking with a friend during COVID. My friend was living in another country in the world. During COVID, everything was locked down, and he realized what God had given him, what God had graced him, were these neighbors that did not know Jesus. And so he stewarded this extra time and the proximity to neighbors to building relationships with them. So this is another example of stewarding what God has given you for the glory of the kingdom.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm so glad we can be good stewards of this dim sum, and I think we should eat some.
we should eat some more.
And this is for John Lee, if he's still listening. John, are you still there? Because he said he's loving the sound that these rolls are making. So here we go, John. You ready?
I wish I could tell you where these spring rolls are from.
Oh,
So we can give them a shout out. These are
good.
delicious. Guys, this was Dim Summary. We're so glad that you've been able to join us and chat with us, and look forward to seeing you next week.
be
I'm
right
sorry
here
I'm talking
next
with
week.
my mouth open.
Hey, that's what it's all
Sorry,
about.
I'm eating with my mouth open.
Yeah. All right. Have a great week, everyone. Sign up and volunteer somewhere. We'd love for you to use God's gifts in the best possible way. Have a great week.
Amen. Bye.